Yeah. You already know. It's Kappa Kappa. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid. Man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate. I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case. I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning. I purchased a Lamborghini, driving around the city. Believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm burning, just getting started. Through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in the club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply on my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply on my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling.
We're live from the Grill on San Mateo. You got the Jen, you got the Big John, you got Winston Carson here, you got the Nikki G. We're live here, guys. We got the Truth Podcast today. We got some pretty phenomenal stuff to talk about. I'm excited, John. I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, we're a week. I guess we're a week after the election. The sky hasn't fallen, so we shall see. See how things go.
I'm watching Carson's.
I'm not saying anything.
I got watching. You see that sucker, dude?
I'm not talking politics today.
We were talking politics at lunch, right? Uh-huh. He's still waiting for the CNN map. He's showing me the CNN map. He says the election's going to be overturned. I said, I don't know, but we'll see.
Nah, I don't think so.
Anyways, that's not what we're talking about today, guys.
I know, but yeah. But that's how it was. I think that's a big time in our history right now. But I hope it doesn't, Carson. But from I think a mental standpoint, I think that a lot of stress has been relieved from people's minds. Whether or not it'll get reignited again, I hope it doesn't.
All I'm glad to say is the market's been performing pretty strong. So that's what matters to me. Yesterday, I think the peak, it was like at 1,300 points up on the Dow, which was insane due to the vaccine. So I've just been me and Jack were talking about that too. I've been looking at all that stuff now to see how everything's going to react. And they're saying, due to Senate holding certain ways and, the vaccines coming out and gas doing this and that. So,
and also stability.
We'll
stability affects the market.
As long as that's green, that's all that matters to me. That's all I'll say about that.
I taught him well. You see that shit wrong with this BS. Look, let me just talk a little bit about this. John, you want to talk about the first subset?
So the first thing that we're going to talk about, sort of the topic of today's show, is that life's not fair.
Yep.
And so I want you to expand on that.
No way.
News flash, breaking news.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is how, I want to talk about this, right? So I listen to a lot of individuals, right? And when they're talking about what they're going through. And we've talked about this in a past podcast about, are you ready to weather a storm? And Ryan said, you got a rain hat? Do you have a rain jacket? And how well are you prepared? But one of the things that I'm going to touch on everything of this piece is, what does nature versus nurture touch you or prepare you or throw you off on the basis of this? And for you out there thinking about what the hell is nature versus nurture, what nature versus nurture means is, if you were born a tiger, you should be a tiger. But if they put you in captivity and they teach you to do circus tricks, that part of that piece of it could take you from being a full tiger, right?
Yep, chips away at your nature.
Yeah, chips away at your nature. But I think some of us out there, we spend so much time focused on the nurture part of it and just can't get over it, instead of saying, you know what, I'm a bonds, or what am I going to do to make myself better? So then I create all these bunch of pieces, and now it's just business creating. Because the most powerful thing you have, you take these two fingers right here, and one is listening, right, and put them up against, it's the space between these two fingers is your most powerful tool, right? And so on the life situation, right, you look at, I could have many excuses. I could have said I came from this tiny town in northern New Mexico, right, not even 800 people. And I could have made multiple excuses, right? I didn't have stockbrokers teaching me shit. I didn't have this. I had some good teachers teaching me my life. I had good parents. But ultimately, I can't say that I was going to be bred to be a champion at a high level, right? But I took the bull by the horns. So I didn't allow my environment to dictate what my outcome is going to be, right? And so that's kind of the big set is life's not fair, period. And I'm sure that all of us have been in a position where we've sat there and said, holy shit, life really dealt me a fucked up card in the deck. So what do you got to do? You got to shuffle it. You got to keep on playing those cards. But again, it's what kind of stamina you have, or are you going to give up or throw it out? And I think that's one of the things that we really want to talk about today. So what I want you guys to do is just kind of share with me real quick any piece you have had that's something that was pretty based on nature versus nurture, something that you're fighting right now, or you feel like you've overcome as the crew here. Anybody wants to start?
I want to hear one first.
I know from a, say, even like a parenting perspective, like my sons, they're physically a blend of their mom and me. Okay. But that only takes you so far. Mm-hmm. Now you have to, I've nurtured the athletic to build upon that already athletic ability. So height, the physical prowess, but then what I've nurtured is the intellectual part of it, to where we're watching film or we're constantly evaluating things and we're able to communicate with each other, so we're a blend of it. Yeah. I mean, you can be 5 foot and have the heart of an NBA champion, but you don't have that nature in you to dunk a basketball. Now you can work on it and you can be like Spud Webb and eventually develop that and nurture that skill to be able to get to that. So we're a mix of, okay, what are the ingredients versus how good do we decorate the cake?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I would go in the past for me to do one thing is where my abilities weren't where it should have been is when I was playing basketball, I used to always do plyometrics, right? Because I'm only about 5'9", maybe 5'9.5" with shoes. And what I would do is nurture that constant thing and strengthen my legs. And that's why I have such bigger legs, is because I was always trying to be able to get my leaping ability up. Because obviously in basketball, you're 5'9", you're really not going to be the cream of the crop. So, eventually by, I think it was junior year, I was able to dunk a basketball on the 10-foot rim. So that was kind of one thing that I had to overcome and figure out, how am I going to, because I was fast. So it was one thing to get to the rim, right? But it was, how are you going to elevate up against when you're going against a center who's, 6'5" or 6'6", in Albuquerque, that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I had to do and constantly nurture was, that ability to weigh the factor of my athletics and saying, okay, I'm a smaller, stocky guy, I'm fast, but how am I going to be able to compete at this level if I can't, do certain things? So that's kind of the first thing that came to mind for me.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like for me, what I've been, because I'm really trying to stop going to my past, because I feel like I really need to break those chains of everything I've been through. And like where I'm at now is really, I've been really into like neuroplasticity lately. It's really learning like our thought patterns and certain things that we can do, because I'm trying to rewire myself so that way I don't have this issue that I have with my ADHD without needing a supplement or something like that. Like what used to work for me no longer works for me. So it's because I've expanded my consciousness. So I'm not on that level, that kind of chains that used to help me. So what I've been really studying is like where I'm nurturing myself is learning breathing techniques, different stuff to either calm me down or to produce my own dopamine. Because what I've really been learning is like we live in a saturated state where we're constantly getting this fake dopamine from social media, from all of these, outsourced things, where I'm becoming almost numbed out in a sense. So what I did is I deleted all of like my quick things to any of my social media. And I've been really working in on writing in a journal daily and nurturing my habits. Like what am I really doing? What are my stuff that I can do better? And that's been like my biggest thing, because what used to work for me even a year ago, that's not far, no longer works for me. And so now there's a doctor, I can't remember his name, but I mean, I'm probably about 13 hours in audiobooks with this. And it was such an eye opener. And I started implementing it because action immediately, and just breathing techniques has drastically changed me completely. And that's where I'm at now, is changing certain things in my own space and element. And to me, that's been monumental. Yeah, it really has been. Even on an athletic thing, learning how to breathe correctly. I noticed when I was training, I'm boxing again, and I was holding my breath when I was punching. And then I noticed I was getting tired fast.
Yeah,
I'm like, whoa, back to basics, breathing's life. That's a big thing.
I got a fix for you. It's called the 16-ounce axe, right? Take it there, chop wood. We'll take that ADHD crap out of your life. I'll teach you the proper breathing technique.
Mr. Miyagi.
You know what I mean? After we're done, we'll get you squared away, Nikki. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Survivor mentality versus the victim's mentality.
Yeah,
she could have made excuses to be a victim. She's a survivor.
I think one of the situations is, this is what I'm talking about. And I think one of the things that I think for listeners out there, and I love you, Nick, you do the research, you put the time, you do this. But one of the biggest things talking about that is you want to limit your options, because you'll never come to a concise decision. And we were talking about this at lunch, right? And so we understand that the fundamentals of bodybuilding are pretty simple. It's really how much input are you putting in. So if you want to be the biggest power lifter in the world and you're going to go and strength and shit, you can eat whatever you want. 10 cheeseburgers, it's all about that input.
But you got to eat the 10, not just one.
You got to eat the 10, right? But there's only one option. And we talk about, what supplements are really out there, and all the bullshit that's there that's causing you gas and all this crazy stuff, it's not needed. And so one of the things, in order to come to a concise decision, is we start to go and create so many options, because there's so many people talking about the same thing, that we never take the steps on one. You see what I'm trying to say? And so now we're doing is spinning our fucking wheels left and right. And now we're talking. Now what we're doing, what we're doing? We're sitting in a group of people, fucking a pity party. Well, I got this, what's happening? And it's not going to get you nowhere, right? So I think the thing is in those sections, like you said, what didn't work for you a year ago, and it doesn't work today, means that there's either too many options and whatever it is. And this is what I'm talking about. And I made the funny story with the axe, right? The axe today, I can still chop any tree down no matter what it is, right? But we have chainsaws. And so now that's a better option to the axe. But you can't chop with the chainsaw. So then you still have to have the axe in your tool belt. And so I think understanding what tool is important for what job is going to get us to the next level. And so ultimately, I think, like I've told you, the number one thing that when I think about Nikki G, it's discipline, repetitiveness. Repetitive, doing it 10,000 times so that you can master that one thing. That's exactly, if I'm sitting there and I'm coaching you, that's exactly that, because we're creating too many different options, you're not going to move from it. And then back to the bodybuilding, right? It's based on the resistance, the stuff that I've showed you. And so if you apply those metrics all the time, repetitively, you're going to make those massive changes over that period of time, right?
Absolutely.
You haven't seen me. You looked over and said, "What the fuck are you doing?" Right?
Yeah.
And I'm wearing the long sleeve shirt because I'm coming out with a trick, right? And the thing is about it is I'm doing the going back to what I've learned, and I'm not getting funky, right? People say, "What supplements do you take?" It's the Premier Protein shit because I don't want to mix it. I gave the example to Winston. Not saying that the stuff that coming out of bottles is good or bad, but you can't tell me that there's a chemist there saying that the certain mix lands and that every scoop is the same. But if someone's mixing it with the laws of volume, like iced tea, you got the mix, you can pretty much know that it's going to be at the par. It's like Dr. Pepper. So those are those fundamentals to say, am I going to spend my time in learning how to mix the best protein shake in the world, or am I just going to get the Premier Protein? You see, learning how to spend your time in things that don't make sense because you're not just doing one thing, you're doing all things in life. That's that repetitiveness, right? And so what I want to do is I'm going to jump us forward, right, a little bit. And I'm going to jump us forward, and we're going to talk about...
Unlock your phone so I can get on Facebook. You can get over yourself.
So what I want to talk about is really... What I'm going to teach today is looking at a problem, but very differently, right? I'm going to walk you through a storybook. I'm going to walk you through different situations from individuals that I've heard, and I'm going to do a very special forces approach to solve the situation. And what we're going to do is we're going to limit our options, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in a combat situation, what do you really have? One, you have your fellow mates, right? It could be two, it could be three, it could be one, it could be zero. You got your rifle and so many bullets in your clip. That's it. You got nothing else. If it all goes to fuck, you got a K-bar, and you better hope that guy's within distance because you're probably not going to make it. So your options are so limited, but what you're doing is repetitively practicing only with those options. So no matter what the environment serves you, you're there, right? So that's kind of the mindset we're going to go down. And so, John, talk about the next one we got laid out here. Is what do we got there?
So you want to talk about some of life's biggest problem, life's biggest lessons.
Life's biggest lessons. We're going to go with number one. And I'm sure whether you're 10 years old or you're 12 years old or you're 15 years old or you're 30 years old, one of life's biggest lessons that will whoop your ass and put you in check is heartbreak, right? Heartbreak will put your ass in line. And I've seen individuals that have gotten heartbroken either from a girlfriend, boyfriend, a father situation, a mother situation, and they're never able to actually get back to dry land, right? So they're just stuck in this constant, I call it being in the pool, not be able to get out. And so you're not quite drowning because if you just stood still, your head's still above water, but all you're doing is making momentum so you can't get out of the pool. So you're stuck in a pool of stupidity because you actually think you're drowning, but you're not. And this is the part of the piece that what I want to teach you is about how much control you're giving the individual. So I'm not going to give any names, obviously, but I have how many times out there, listeners, have you been in a relationship and it all goes to shit, but when you sit back and you think about it and you say, well, what I had to start with wasn't concrete. It was fucking Play-Doh. But we try to take Play-Doh and we wanted to harden it and act like it was concrete. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things that we have to understand is that when we're dealing with anybody in life, we already know what their ability is, what they can kind of bring to the table, but what are we doing? We're creating these bullshit options of possibilities. Options that are possibilities are going to get you nowhere. We talked about a lunch today, right? You said, if you make 200 grand, you know for sure when you go to the bank, you can get $1 million mortgage.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts, right?
Right.
If you make 50 grand, can you get the $1 million mortgage?
Nah, you can maybe get 200,000.
But do you understand what I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
you? So if we sit here and we treat everything mathematically, and you look at this very special forces approach, you limit the option. You know what it is. So you know that if you are only going to shoot for a $50,000 a year lifestyle, where you're going to get a $200,000 home. Bottom line, what you put into something, you're going to get out. What you put into the relationships, you're going to get out. But there's a but. Would you deposit in a bank? Would you put $100 in the bank, check the next day, and now you only have $80 in the bank? Would you leave your money in there, Nikki?
No.
Big John?
Um,
Winston?
Negative.
something's wrong.
Something's wrong, right? How many times are we depositing in humans that all they're doing is subtracting from the bank and there's no dividends in this? And I talk about this all the time in my podcast. Then what ends up happening is you're cutting down $10, 50 cents. Oh, it's just 10 cents this time. It's not a big deal. But what ends up happening is it gets you into a mental deficit that can put you in a tailspin and put you in a bad place, right?
Absolutely.
And so you have to understand for yourself, how big is my bankroll before I go for the deal? Well, if you don't got the $200,000, you can't go for the $1 million deal. So what if you try to approach the $1 million deal and you lied on your taxes and you got the $1 million deal and you're making $100,000, you're going to fail, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the relationship. So if you go in there thinking, I can handle this, I can get through all this abuse.
You're trying to bite off more than you can chew.
More than you can chew.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, now the mental deficit is so far that your mind is taxed out. Now your body's following. And this is where you end up in this situation of the pool of stupidity, and you can't get out. Instead of looking at it and saying, you know what, this is what I can afford. So there's always a metric, whether your mental ability, your emotional ability, and most people can't look at themselves and say, this is how much mental, emotional content that I have. And when it gets to this level, it's going to tax me out and cause me to do stupid shit. Down to the worst case scenario, someone committing suicide, right? Because they're taxed out and they don't know what to do. That's the worst case scenario, right? Making a badass decision and you involve the person has a bad spending problem. You get in the relationship and says, you know what? Oh, but I love him. And then you get in the deal, right? Or I love her, right? And she's bad financially. You make a decision. You co-sign together on something, and has got a gambling issue. So now both you lose your houses or your house, right? And then you got kids, and the kids are fucked up now. And they see this snowball effect. And it was one decision away from knowing that you were literally playing with Play-Doh, not concrete, right?
Absolutely.
But let's take it back. Let's go further back into our lives. Let's think about this. You're in high school. And you get your first crush, your first love, right? And you're sitting there and you're thinking, you know what? This person here, I could spend my entire life with them. I don't even want another option. I don't care if the Lamborghini SV comes out or the Bugatti Chiron. I'm going to be right here with my trusty Mustang GT, and it's going to be a lifetime thing. You get that one experience, right? But that heartbreak right there is probably the most severe heartbreak you'll ever feel in your life. I speak from my own experience, right? Once you get that level of ass kicking, you'll never feel it again. So if you feel that level of ass kicking because you went in all in, right? You went all in, the bank's in, and you feel that. If you felt that once, why would you go again and use the same tactics you use to get taxed even bigger at a bigger game? Right? Can you guys remember your first heartbreaks? John?
Yeah. I even just look at it, even like current ones where you make an emotional investment and you keep, just like you keep putting money in that bank and you're not going to get a return in it, but you think it's going to hit someday. And I've seen that in the last 6 or 7 years with one particular person. I know that it's not going to go anywhere, but then I end up still investing money in the bank and still losing on a return because I sort of keep myself emotionally with that person. But I'm never ever honest with I am, but then I'm not. And then a late night phone call or a late night text, and then those things derail yourself in believing in yourself. So I can completely equate that to a sort of a relationship and even putting yourself in a position to where you feel that type of heartbreak because you have hopes that investment is going to pay off and it's not going to.
I want to break this metaphor down for you, okay? You go to the dealership and they sit you down. So what's happening to John is they're giving him the hot dog, the free Coke, and the popcorn. But yet they want him to get in debt, and that's what the relationship is. So what ends up happening in that late night text or whatever, you're getting just enough of the hit for the drug dealer to keep you stuck. Mm-hmm. And that's the crazy part, because what it ultimately boils down is you do not know your self-worth. And that's really the fucking situation. You sit there and say, what's my self-worth? Because the $1 million house needs a $200,000 salary. So if you're pulling in a couple $100,000 a year and you went to Lamborghini and says, I want to lease this fucking Lamborghini Aventador, you think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. You might have to have no mortgage because you're going to be paying $5,000-$6,000 a month. So those are those things that you got to ask yourself, how much do I have to lose with? You know, people ask me this question and say, what do you think about the market? And I said, the market is fucking Las Vegas, Nevada for me. Yesterday it was up. Today it's down. Yesterday it's up. Yesterday it's down. So are you going to take your life savings and the money that you need to control your life with and dump it in the market, and then you wake up and it's all the shit? No. Same thing with the heartbreak story, right?
Yep.
Is how much emotional capital am I depositing into this individual? And at the end of the day, is this individual really looking for themselves? And the things that you think about humans, as humans, we're fucking selfish as shit. We're looking out for numero uno. And there is some that want to go for that, but the reason that we're giving to get is because we're expecting something in return. It's not because we're giving it out of our heart and you're depositing into the relationship and think, I don't want anything out of it. I'm just a really good person. I want to give this person, my girlfriend or my boyfriend, everything I got and nothing in return. No, it's bullshit. It's because we're looking for something, or else we wouldn't do it. You see what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
But if you're throwing your shit into the ocean, you're not going to find it.
And I think that goes across the board, even with like friends, you know, not even like intimate relationships, like friends are a big thing. You know, I look around at like different times in my life and like at different scenarios, you know, and you can kind of like just see phases. Is like there was a lot of bad investments that I made in people. And I think it was just, you know, it's stuff that I guess I saw greatness when they didn't see greatness in themselves. But then at the end of the day, like you can walk a horse to water, but can't make him drink. And so like right now, you know, I'm very, very, very cautious of who I give my time to and what amount and what's in it. Is it mutual? You know, like I had something that happened where, you know, I had someone that I invested so much time, money, effort, and then just like a drop of the dime, like they were too good for me. But I'm like, okay, you know, like it was like and I'm like, well, that was a bad investment and it was something I learned. So moving forward from that, it was just like, wow, like it was beyond a friendship. I was just like a pawn in their thing, and that's okay. But I'm at a state where I can recognize that. And I will no longer invest in that. You know, I got hit up the other day for something. I'm like, I'm sorry, here's my prices. You know, when I used to do it for them because that person didn't have money and they didn't have anything, but yet they're here blown up. You know, they made it. And a lot of it was my effort. You know, it was really me that really pushed it. I mean, I wasn't the talent, but I put in the time. And then now I will no longer invest in that because it wasn't mutual. You know, if I wanted something, it was like something that, you know, like it was weird, but it was something that sometimes I feel like we focus on relationships, but our friendships are just as toxic or just as valuable in a sense.
And what do you think is missing from that?
That can lead to heartbreak.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said.
Doesn't have to just
Yeah,
be
it doesn't
somebody
have
that
to
It could
be.
be a
Yeah.
parent.
somebody that you love.
Exactly.
Oh, my
It could be a
gosh.
parent. But what is this? What do you think is missing? Why do you think we get to the heartbreak?
It's how much skin do we put in the
Because you're
game?
over leveraged.
Yeah, you put how much exactly. Yeah, how much?
And it was
how much?
kinda
How
like
many
what we were
chips do you
saying.
put in?
We were
We're
saying
expecting
yesterday.
something back.
You're missing one of the biggest key factors in there. What do you think it is? Think about why you feel fucking so let down. Lesson number one from the Jen. Clear fucking expectations.
Yep. Very true.
If you do not have clear expectations, you're gonna get fucking heartbreak. But sometimes we're so enamored by a human that we're just happy to be in the presence, so we can't really say what our expectation is because we're afraid they're gonna say fuck no.
Yeah, afraid to ruin it.
So you already set yourself low because you already don't have a good self-value of yourself. So now you made a concession, and the concession is gonna fuck you. What a concession is taking out a loan that you're paying the interest only. So the bank is always winning, you're always losing. No clear expectation. If you learn to have clear expectations in all these subjects that we're going to talk about today, you're going to limit it. You're not going to be able to eliminate complete heartbreak unless you're a robot, but it's going to be very limited, right? There's a very different story of you putting an expectation in. Let's talk about people that just jump out there and just get married out of nowhere, right? They don't even know each other. And all of a sudden, they're, oh, you know, it was a good time. And by the time you knew it, I got married. And all of a sudden, oh my God, you know, I got little Johnny on the way. You know, now we're going to go in and do this. And it's like, we're just going to get married. And now we think we're going to fix things. Go, all we're fucking doing is complicating the shit. And then here we are down 6 months down the line. Everything's there. And then old Johnny Jr. is a drug addict or something, right? And now mama's over there putting double the time to get shit done. And now it's just a clusterfuck. But you already knew that Johnny Jr. was a clusterfuck. You can't fix it, right? The famous line I like to use, you can't polish a turd. And so this is what I'm talking about. Is if you don't have a clear expectation with somebody and you say, this is what I expect. One thing that I think that I'm very clean and clear, whether when I've been a landlord or I've been renting or I'm doing a deal with the bank, like when I'm reading a contract at the fucking bank, I know exactly what the interest rate is. I know exactly what I'm paying monthly. I know exactly what the term is. I know exactly what's going to happen if I don't pay that loan. The expectation is clear as hell. So why would we not put that same clear expectation in our love life or friendships? Right?
Very true.
Carson, we talked about this the other day. Not the other day, this was like years ago. Guys, and we talk about bro code, right? And we said, okay, you know, guys hang out, and in today's generation, guys think they can holler at your chicks or whatever the fuck. In my generation, you just got your face smashed, right? Real simple. So you knew not to screw around. But the situation is this. We talk about this, and so we had this back in the day. Me and Carson had this deal. I said, okay, if the girl's been your girlfriend, she's off limits. You would think that that's just common sense, but it's a fucking clear expectation. So if you're there with your buddies and all of a sudden he's like, well, dude, I hit up your chick and I didn't know that was that. And then you're fucking mad. Then you're going to go beat his face. Are you going to be able to beat his? You're going to be like, well, I'm still going to kick your ass. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
But it's the fucking got all fuzzy. Or if you're like, dude, you know what? You fucking steal from my mom or my grandma. You're getting your ass beat. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
There's those kind of clear expectations. And I think as individuals, we're never setting those clear expectations. Like when I hear you, Nikki, and you say, I put money into this person, I put this, and I put that, and they made it, and they left me on the fucking sidelines, you didn't have the expectation. Because you would have said, you know what? For every fucking dollar I'm depositing in you, I'm expecting $1.10. And this is how it's going to be. Once you pay the deal, then we're even, and this is where I expect to play in your life. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it's very clear. Same thing with me. When I give someone the deal, they do something for me, I give you a fucking check, because at the end of the day, I don't want people saying, well, Jesus, you know, I did this, and so am I in the big game? No, motherfucker. You brought the shoes to the game. You're not playing in the freaking championship game.
Right.
But you see what I'm trying to say? And those are those things where we can learn those major heartbreaks, and then which can lead to a total fucking disaster. And then we're giving up on life, and we're wondering, my whole life sucked. But we were the ones enabling the individual over and over and over and over. So it's a fucking disaster. Every person that I've ever sat down with that has come and asked me, that's been divorced, from 25-year-olds to 30-year-olds to even 50-year-olds, and you sit there long enough with them, they tell you exactly that it was a very systematic fucking problem that appeared in month 7.
Wow.
And nothing was done about it, and now 10 years have passed. Or you'll talk to a girl, and the girl says, yeah, I knew he was never going to push the limit, but you know what? I really thought he might do it. And then all of a sudden, she's fucking mad. Right?
It's like having a leak and not expecting the foundation to sink.
And over the time period, and you're sitting there and saying, okay, the dude really didn't have that much knowledge, and you as a woman are going to grow to this level, and now he feels like, oh my gosh, he's so much smarter than me. And then the dumb bitch down the street gives him the wink, and then they're fucking in the car, and then everything goes to shit. Everyone's mad, now everyone's getting divorced, and it's a bad deal. But you already knew what you were setting yourself up for. So when you sit there quietly and you're able to examine that situation, you'll always know that you made a bad fucking choice. If you're true with yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's what I work with, is always being true to myself. In any situation I sit with, I'm never there, oh, it's the other person. It's what did I do to contribute to the fucking disaster.
I think it's crazy that a lot of people don't have that. Maybe it's not taught, whatever it is, but to be able to be completely honest with yourself. You know, I don't know if it's just, it's easier to ignore, or it was just never impressed on us or taught, you know
what?
I'm so grateful for these because
The truth hurts.
it does. You
That's
know,
why.
it's really true. And one thing I've always been is I always, when I remember when I first got constructive criticism, you know, and it pissed me off. I was ready to lay the guy out. Like I was young and I was like, I'm just gonna knock this dude out. Like he just pissed me off. But it lit a fire in me that made me better, right? So I took that time to learn that don't get mad because we come from the must be nice world, right? And what we're taught in culture, in you know, where we grew up. But I took it as an, okay, the next time I get constructive criticism, I'm going to get better at that. You know, in sports, like I had Debbie Salazar, she was so mean to me. Before I was even her coach, she used to like get me in trouble. And she became one of my favorite coaches because she corrected things on me. She made me better. She made me a better basketball player because she was so hard on me and she didn't give a shit whether I liked what she said or not. And so I'm grateful that I had the ability to take criticism and stuff that I did wrong and utilize that to become better. A lot of people get one criticism and they're like, I'm going to shut him out and never want to talk to him again. But the problem will relay. So it's like until you answer that problem or, you know, confront it, it will always arise no matter where you are in life. And it's something that I like only taught from experiences. There was a lot of things that always came up and I'm like, okay, it's not everybody, it's me. And that was the biggest growth thing. But I didn't learn any of that growing up. I'm grateful for stuff like this. I mean, if we had the Truth podcast when I was younger, I mean, imagine how many people that are listening to this that don't even hear those words. Because when I start looking at people and I start looking at their life, half the stuff they feed in their mind are TV shows, television, news stuff, social media, TikTok videos. And there's nothing of like true substance. So like stuff like this, I'm truly grateful for because you never know that one person that just needed to hear something that Carson said or you said or I said or anything because it's food. It's food for the mind. It's medicine, you know, and it's good to know that truth does hurt, but truth makes you better, you know?
Yeah, and anything that's going to be uncomfortable is going to make you better, right? Not everything. But I think at the end of the day, when someone's telling you something about to get better in life and it's going to benefit you and you can research that fucker, then you do it. But if there's a lot of people that's going to talk shit or say you should do this because they want, you know, misery loves company. When someone sits there and says, you know what, I'm there for you because I want you to be a better person because I'm this and that, and I fucking look over it, then I'm like, well, I would never trade my life with you. So everything you're fucking telling me, you're wasting my time. Now we wasted your time. We're all wasting together. I'd rather be eating a fucking donut. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, because then the problem is too, if that's not laid out, then you invested so much time that you're not getting back, and it's like, well, we kind of already knew this going forward. It was an elephant in the room type of situation. You know what I mean? And it's like that really was for nothing. Or maybe you learned something out of it, and maybe you learned that going forward you need to set expectations. And that was like what we were saying at lunch today. Is some people just need to learn the hard way, you know? And that's why we're like, well, you know, if you think you can figure it out your own path, then let me know how it goes. And if it's easier, let me know because I want to do that too, you know?
Well, you know, one of the things that I was talking about, John, when you're looking at a little bit, I'm going to go too much election. But you're looking at a lot of these guys, right, that we're talking about, we're going to be fucked up on taxes. And the funny part to me, I'm sitting there, right, and I'm listening to these guys. And there was this meme that came out and says, if your ceiling looks like this, you don't have to fucking worry about taxes. And it was funny because it's a standard orange peel texture, right? And so, you know, I look fucking up and I got the fucking Venetian plaster shit. So I'm saying, well, it's going to affect me. And it's so fucking funny. But the people that spent the most time talking about that are the ones with the orange peel thing. It's not a fucking knockdown, but you're wasting your fucking time. So getting all uprising about that and heartbroken about that is a waste of fucking time. It's not going to put food on your table. It's not going to put you in a better position. But what we were talking about, this is a little bit we talked about yesterday, right? You know, Carson's telling me, he's giving me scenarios. He says, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I always give him my knowledge. But at the end of the day, he was smart enough to understand. He says, well, fuck. If you're not generating the bread, then you can't make the fucking moves like this. It's just wasting time.
Yeah.
Right? You could set up everything in the world to make those moves, But if the flow of water is not coming in, what does it matter? It's like building a dam, but it's never going to know water's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a waste of time, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you set yourself up for that heartbreak. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you're not in that level. It's like an NBA level type thing, and people are trying to do that in the C team level,
Yeah.
and it's not possible. And that's the same thing with, what we were talking about, all the tax crap. It's like, well, do your research and understand who's actually being taxed, because business owners probably aren't going to get it, because the way that the business realm works in tax law, it's at a corporation state. And when you look at an individual state, because people are like, whoa, business owners are then just going to raise the prices on all their products, and then the poor people are going to have to pay more money. And it's like, well, it's not really how it works. More so of a W-2 employee, and they're not really selling product,
Correct.
So that was kind of a discussion that we had alongside with the orange pilled ceiling and things like that. But yeah, it's kind of.
But those are fear tactics that resonate with people that care, and and rightfully so, they care about their money, but that becomes a fear tactic for them. But that's been used since post World War II.
Mm-hmm.
That same argument, that argument hasn't gotten any better.
Mm-hmm.
We have cell phones now that are amazing things of technology.
Yeah.
But that mentality hasn't progressed.
Yeah.
It really hasn't progressed, and it's divide and conquer. It's as old as civilization itself. Is you find a way to divide people, and you can conquer them.
Well, I think one of the main things, John, so we can jump to the next part, is when you hear, like, I always laugh my ass off. I have a lot of very wealthy friends, and I have a very couple that are at the next level, and I hear people saying, you know what? When these tax laws come, guys like you are going to pay a lot of taxes. And I fucking look and laugh my ass off, and I look at people and say, I make $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right? And when you think about that, well, how the fuck does a general do what he does? He makes $50,000 a year. That's called my magic trick, right? That's the KFC sauce. So you see what I'm trying to say? That's one. No, what you're fucking is the doctors, the lawyers, the professionals that we're going to have to hire. And so now when the doctor's getting fucked that high, well, he's going to raise his prices to do shit the offset, and now the healthcare's out the fuck.
I mean, that's one of your the guys that you revere is Warren Buffett. He's written articles. He's done great discussions. How his secretary pays a larger percentage than he does.
Yes.
Because the way the tax laws are written, and there's all these things that you can write off and defer and claim as losses, and that becomes. But again, voting has consequences. Education has consequences. All those things are all tied in together. And if you realize, and again, for some people, the deck is stacked against them, but it doesn't mean that you can't fight your way out of it. Now there are so many things that we try to do in our society to help people that have those stacked decks against them, so, but and that's part of it, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, we need people to flip the burgers at McDonald's.
No doubt.
Just the part of life.
No, that's we don't live in a Star Trek society where we all wear the same clothes and we're boldly fucking searching the universe, and nobody cares about monetary things. Our society couldn't exist. I remember, you probably remember me telling you that when you were my student, is that, because of the way our society is set up, it's not set up for everybody to succeed. And going back to even our original, what's our talking point of this sort of thing, is life isn't fair, and you look at those components of nature and nurture. Okay, so what are you going to do to nurture yourself, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically? You have control over that. You don't have a control over too much over nature, but by the same token, you can make choices. So if you want to have children someday, you can decide, okay, my kids, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I mix some good nature with it.
Exactly.
And I know that was part of my process.
Yeah.
I was like, if I ever, when I do get married someday, I'm going to make sure that nature part of it, and then I have control over the nurture. So.
Yeah.
And that's taking control of your environment, right? And so hopefully, if you mix the sauce, you're going to come out with a good output, right? Not every cookie that you make the best is going to come out perfect. You might burn one, or it might be one at the edge.
The bad pancake.
The bad pancake. But at the end of the day, you're not focusing on the fucking bad pancake. And what's going on is people are mixing they're mixing a little bit of batter, and that's all they got. And if they get a bad pancake, then they're fucked. And so you can't live life with those limitations. And this is what I was talking about. This is where I sit there and I say, look, you don't have to be a millionaire in order to live a great life. That is the most neurotic thing I've ever heard in my life. If you're pulling in 100 grand, even if you're pulling 89 grand and you shoot for that and you pull that and you do the right things with that money, you're going to get to the next level. It's what you're going to do with it, right? And that's what people don't understand. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you retain. That is really the true factor.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's just me into my next subject, right? I think is worse than the fucking heartbreak for me personally. Knock on wood, I don't want to experience this fucker. The biggest lesson life will teach you, if you allow it to, is an empty pocket. A fucking empty pocket is a fucked up place to be, right? I can't really talk from this point. I can only share an experience with you. When I was a very young man, I think I was about in 8th grade, I had $425 saved. And so I was always into weightlifting. So my cousin says, I'm going to sell you this whole weight set for $350. And she had paid like $500. At the time, my cousin was a pretty competitive bodybuilder. So she kind of outgrew it, and I thought, man, I'm going to put it on. And so I spent all my money on this weight set. And I used to like to go to watch the volleyball games and the basketball games. So one day I miscalculate, and I told my dad, and he was in a bad mood that day. And I said, hey, can I get a couple bucks from the guy? And he's like, no. So I went. So I went to the game. I bought the ticket, and I get to the front of the fucking line. And for me, it looks like there's 1,000 people. Obviously not 1,000 people in Peñasco, but it's pretty packed. And I'll always remember this. I ordered a Coke, nachos, and a fucking Frito pie. And when the lady said, and I had $3 in my name, and the lady says $3.55, and I almost had a fucking heart attack. And so when I look around, I feel like, holy shit, they're watching me. And I'm 55 cents short. And there was nothing that I could do to solve that in that moment. And to me, it was horrifying, right? And so I'm kind of like, fuck, they already made the Frito pie. They already made the nachos. And my neighbor's around. And he says, no worries, I got the 55 cents. I felt defeated. And so what I learned from that lesson, I go to the game, and I couldn't even enjoy my fucking nachos, and I couldn't even be my place. And I'm fucking furious, right? And all I can think about is fucking pissed at my dad. I'm pissed at myself. I spent the fucking money. But let me tell you what I did. The game ended, and I'm sitting at the top of the fucking bleachers, and I self-reflected, and I told myself this: never in my fucking life will I ever find myself depending on a fucking individual, whether I don't give a shit who it is, a parent, whatever, for finances. Never. The second thing I learned is I said, I will never spend the majority of my wealth on a want, and it's not a need.
That's good.
When I walked off those bleachers, never again in my life did you ever see me short on making any type of decision. Short 55 cents, short $1, none of that. I worked my ass off because I never wanted to feel the feeling of empty pockets. To me, it was detrimental. Some people, which is fucking scary, they're accustomed to it.
They would learn how to tell them an excuse to get rid of the Coke.
Yeah. Or the empty pockets just become a way of life.
Yeah.
And
that's so deep. I love that story. You know what I love about it? Is I love the piercing in your fucking eyes when you say it. Like, it takes you to that monumental moment when you said never again. And like, it's not even the words that you came out of the mouth, but I saw your soul. Like, you mean it. You'll never be in that state again. And it's empowering because I feel like those are the moments that it separates the people. Those are the moments that separate someone that's going to learn how to live that lifestyle, or the people that said, I'll never fucking live that way. Those are the moments that are like so important, but to see the passion in your eyes, like, it's just so relatable, you know?
Yeah. And this is like when people say, why do you carry so much money with me? You know, everyone knows, man, I carry big old wads of cash, right? It's because you'll never fucking find me. There's nothing out there. I don't give a shit what service you're providing, what hot dog, what fucking steak, what caviar, what bottle that I can't buy on the spot 2 or 3 times over, because I never want to find myself in that situation. And this is how I treat my financial world. And anyone who threatens that, you become an enemy of the state.
I love it.
You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah, I love it.
Because
Can I tell you a funny story?
Sure.
It's kind of embarrassing.
That's what
But
we're here for.
remember when you invited me over for a meeting for your website?
Yes.
I had just bought a bunch of equipment. Like I spent every bit of penny, but I've made my money back and more, just so we make that clear. And you're like, come by the office. I want you to check out the website, all this stuff. Well, I go to get my truck and I had like no gas, but I just spent all my money on all this equipment, right? I mean, thousands of dollars. And so I have my office space out of my mom's house. So I remember like, fuck, what do I do? So my niece, it used to be her room is what my office was. And I took $5 of quarters from my niece, which I gave her a $20 bill. So we're good.
Yeah.
But I remember driving to your office and I was so fucking embarrassed. I'm like, here I am rolling to fucking Lambo Jack's office, scraping up my niece's $5. But you know, that moment I told myself, and I felt that in your eye, it was like the moment that lit my soul on fire. I was like, I'll never be broke a fucking again. And now it's like I have 5 streams of income and I'm constantly making money. But that moment, it pissed me off so bad because I was so embarrassed. But I came through, I showed up, you had no clue. You know, I helped along with the thing and it came back in return.
Yeah.
Like tenfold. But that moment pissed me off. And then to see you say that, but I'm like, he was a kid. I'm fucking 30s. Am I? What the hell's going on? You know? But I love it because I related in a
But
sense.
this is what I want you to. You said, you know what? You said it burned my soul. It didn't burn my fucking soul. It burned my fucking ass. So when I sat down, my ass was burnt. That experience burnt my ass. Nothing fucking lights my soul unless it's something fucking positive. That lit my ass, and so I don't like my ass lit, right? And so those experiences, and this is what I tell listeners out there: if you got the fucked up situation, why do you want to relive it over and over like Groundhog Day? Right? If the fucking bitch ain't gonna change, get rid of her. If the guy's not gonna get changed, get rid of her. If the bank is bad, get rid of her. If your fucking life sucks, get rid of it. Don't quit. But what are you gonna do to change it? You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Oh, absolutely.
And so ultimately, you're the one who has all the power in your hands. And it's right here. This is the most powerful fucking part between these 2 fingers.
Yep.
And if you aren't able to control that, you won't control shit. It just whirlwinds on you, right?
Absolutely.
So ultimately, you have to understand and say, what are those things that really fucking freak you out? So when people ask me, says, why did you strive to become so wealthy? Was it the cars? Was it this? No. It was that fucking moment with the nachos and the Frito pie and the Coke, right?
Yeah.
I never want to show up at a place where I'm there and I'm like, I want that, and all of a sudden I'm short. Well, now if I'm fucking short, it's going to be a lot of money, so I doubt someone's going to fucking front me, right? No one's going to be out there and say, you know what, dude, I need you to front this airplane motor. You know what I'm trying? So those are those things I'm talking about. And so you take those life experiences and you say, you know what? I'm not going through this shit again. The heartbreak, right?
Yep.
Got my heart broken so hard. I thought I was like a fucking arrow went through my head. So you know what? I don't like the way this feels. So I will never empower another individual over me, or I'll never give this much. So when you get a fucking ass kicking, you don't feel like that. Period.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
I like the word unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you respond, you don't react. You move with strategy, not emotion. And, you know, those are like the biggest things, but when I say unfuckwithable, and I've been saying this for years. I mean, one day you guys, I'm gonna give you guys a t-shirt with it on, but it's a state where no matter what happens to you or around you, it really can't mess with your state because you are completely in control of your life. Yes, we're still going to have those times where something bad happens, but guaranteed it's most likely your fault because you put yourself in those situations or you do stuff and there's circumstances that we can't control, but 90% of the time we are fully control of our life by being in fully control of our mind. And it's so powerful because we're not ever taught that, it's always like what's right or wrong.
There's a statistic that shows out there, all the bad thoughts you think about that could happen to you, it's like less than 0.017% that it could happen to you, that actually happens to you. So it's actually 98% is you're in control, and the fucked up shit that are happening are all what preconceived choices you made to get there. So with that level of percentage against you, there's nothing to worry about.
Absolutely.
Because if I go to Vegas with those fucking percentages, I'll be gambling on my whole wealth. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Absolutely.
So like when that one thing happens, you're like, okay, or you got the bad deck, like John calls about the deck. But in life, there's a lot of fucking decks. So, just write the deck out. You know what I mean? You went any moment with you about in those two categories that fucking really set you?
Yeah, probably. It was when I was younger too. I was probably like 16 years old. I had left the shoe job that I had. I still had a car payment to pay, insurance, and I kind of grew up never wanting to ask my mom for really anything money-wise. If I made a decision to go in and buy something, I wanted to make sure that was my choice to do it. And at the time, I had money coming in, right? So I said, okay, cool. That's when I was selling all the shoes. I had my own little shoe business thing where I'd buy and sell those. And then I was still working at Champs, and that helped me to get certain exclusive shoes because if they sell out, employees get first call at them. So long story short, I ended up leaving Champs because there was a huge change in management and a huge change in everything. And I wanted better for myself, but I quite didn't know what I was going to do. So without thinking, I leave the job, car payments still coming in that I had purchased. And money started trickling down. I had money saved up, but the car payment's going to slowly chip away, right? Chipping away. One day I went out with my buddies, and then I was like Mr. Cool because I had the coolest car out of all my friends and all this, and we go to eat, and I had no money to pay for my food. And I was freaking starving. So have you ever been in a situation where you're hungry and you can't eat and all your buddies are there eating around you? That was the moment for me. And I had to sell a bunch of my shoes that I didn't want to sell that I kept, huge collection of shoes that I had to get rid of to sell. But it put me in that moment where it was like, holy shit, I'm hungry. I can't eat. And everyone else, and I'm like, everyone's like, oh, you don't want anything? I'll get you something. No, I'm good. Because I had that ego, right? Where I was like, oh, I was Mr. Cool. I can't have this nice car. And then I'll be over here, you can't pay for your food. So after that moment, I said, I never want to be in that situation again. Because there's still shoes to this day I regret selling and I still don't have. You know what I mean? And then the value on them went up higher and I'm not going to pay that much for them now. So ever since that happened, I always told myself I would never over leverage myself. So from that point forward, I kind of learned don't commit to a loan or don't commit to a debt if you don't know you can pay it off in at least 4 years, because you never know really what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And if you're out of a job or anything like that, that payment still comes due every month. And it's slowly going to, no matter how much money you have saved, it'll chip away. And then next thing you know, you're not able to pay certain things, or you can't do certain things, or you have to sacrifice things. And kind of similar situation to Jax's, I never wanted to be somewhere and be hungry and not be able to pay for food, or want something at the store and be like, oh, damn, I can't. Or you put your card in there and they're like, sorry, sir, your card was declined. I never wanted to have those moments, So ever since then, I think I was like 15 or 16. Didn't want that to happen again. And it hadn't, so.
And when Carson says he's young, he's still young. He's like, when I was young.
I'm a little young. I'm a young adult now, John.
I still love that he was your teacher. I still forget about that.
John's probably a little grumpy how I turned out as far as my political views.
No, that's not at all.
How about, John, for you in those different? There's
God,
one.
Being a teacher, that's something I experience on a daily basis.
No, John.
Hey,
I want to say though, man, seeing some of the posts you were putting with your kiddo, and you guys went to the football camp.
Yeah, to Chicago.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
Yeah.
I was all looking at it. I was like, dang, this dude's a beast, man. He's tall.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But again, that's nature and nurture.
Yeah.
It's a combination of the two. So, but that's, but it's also the lot, the profession I chose. So that has affected it. But by the same token, I wouldn't do it
different.
I wouldn't do it any different just because I want my sons to turn out that way. And I know that if I were in a different industry or a different profession, I wouldn't be there every day.
You wouldn't have time.
I wouldn't have time. I couldn't pick them up at 2:30
True.
And coach them in Little League, coach them in soccer, coach them in baseball, train them, feed them, get them to practice, be able to watch film, be able to get better at my craft. I wouldn't have been able to do those things.
It's
That's
crazy.
what we were talking about today.
Fucking A. I'm gonna hit this one, right? Is people always want to tell me, I want to get to this. I want to be $100,000 person. People tell me about being a millionaire. I'm like, motherfucker, you can't even crawl. So let's not even talk about that right now. No, I'm being serious, right?
Yeah.
I'm being serious, right? I'm like, dude, you don't got the gumption, right? And the thing is about it, to make $100,000 is a fucking bitch. That was probably the hardest accomplishment for me. Once I passed that, it's weird, right? But you're not going to have the time. So if you want to give up 16 hours a day and not have a family life and not have a personal life and all that, that's what it's going to fucking take to break that barrier. But if you want to be, oh, I want to be able to do this, and well, my wife, I got to help her with the fucking nails, and I want to experience this, you ain't going to do it.
Well, I perfect example. I have a family member that our kids played Little League together growing up, and then it got to a point where this person's kids couldn't play on the same Little League team, so they took them out of baseball. See, that's just it. Is I'd give up my vehicle so that my kids can do whatever they want.
Yeah, see, that's another situation too, and that's one thing I've always told myself is I said I would never bring a kid into this world if I couldn't put him in, AAU, or I couldn't put him in AYBL or U-Trip for baseball, or the big travel teams,
or
right?
things that you
or if they
couldn't
wanted to do that, or take my kids to Disneyland, or do certain things for them, because that's an experience I want to provide for them. I never want to be like, oh, the kid comes home and little Johnny and his parents went to Disneyland last time. I've never been there. What's it like? And
little Jack got the fucking VIP to Disneyland. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and you never want to be in the situation like, oh shit, then your kid wants to go and then you can't do it, or you can't put them, or their best friend, who's playing on the school team in the off season, they're playing AAU in Denver and all these places. And I just always said I never wanted to be in that situation.
So exactly what you said. If you want to, that's why I don't lament on it. I may play, oh, I'm a teacher, shit, I get paid shit. But by the same token, I could spend amazing amounts of time with my kids, and I'm rich in a different regard.
Yeah, well, look at how they're turning out. I mean, that's
they go play in the NFL, and then you know what? He's gonna see, what, Dad?
Dad's gonna be
like,
there.
fuck y'all.
Heavy. Daddy threw me a side meal. Thanks a lot. You never know that kind of shit, right? That's what you're planning on that, but it's crazy about that. It's better depositing your family and those kids than anybody else, because that dividends is different, right? It was a different responsibility, and I think that look, this is the part that you got to really, really, really focus on, right? Is that ultimately the best deposit for yourself in getting that time is like you're seeing that with your son, right? And you're like, and I'm seeing it. Fuck, I get to see it, right? So I can attest everything you're saying is fucking legit because it's there. The proof's in the pudding. But let's go to this, right?
What's up, Philly?
Billy, what's up? We got the big Phil, owner of the grill. Without the Phil, we couldn't get magic happening out here. Come support the grill.
Here on San Mateo.
I'm going to have to create the General's meal, Phil. We're going to put it on the menu. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be something phenomenal. So what I was saying is that, if you got to know what the sacrifice is going to be. And then let me tell the young guys out there, right? Let me tell you the fucking line. You see all these guys, and I'm always talking, they're like, you know what? So-and-so's got married, and they got this. And I'm like, well, they're going to be fucking broke. Well, it's okay. And they're like, well, it's about love. I'm saying, you know what? When you're with that motherfucker for 2 years and you're broke still, you're going to be mad. It's real life. People get stuck on this shit where they believe like, oh, it's whatever. And then everybody's mad. Mm-hmm. And what I'm talking about is this. You can attain both. But if your last name wasn't Trump or Rockefeller, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to put the work in.
Yeah.
Right? And so you go in and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to be a big bull. So then I want to go the family life, but you've now created a life so that you can harness this. And say you meet the right girl out there, right? And she wants to be in your life. And then she has the opportunity. If she wants to work, she does. But if she doesn't, she doesn't. There's no fucking pressure. But people are roommating together to pay the mortgage or to pay the rent, and that's just dumb as shit. Because then now you're stuck to each other and you hate each other's guts or whatever the situation is.
Yeah, one person wants one thing in one way and the other way.
The concession, right? And so ultimately you can do it, but you're not going to do it at once. So I'm telling you right now, you go balls to the wall. This is the magic number, 35 years old. If you go balls to the wall, you put the fucking time and effort, even 89 grand a year, doing the right moves at 35, you're going to be so financially free that you're going to be able to do it. But if you try to fucking carry a family along, it's going to be tough as shit. Can it be done? Yeah, but it's going to be tough as shit. If you talk to some of my friends that are like professionals, engineers, doctors, that can make the 200 grand a year, and you talk to their kids and they're all fucking mad, or, dad wasn't around, or I was talking to a surgeon, he's like, yeah, I'm really guilty because, you know, I wasn't there for my daughter. You know, I made a relationship with her freshman year of college. And you're like, fuck, that's heavy. But you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Absolutely.
And so those decisions you have to make, and you can't, sometimes you just can't have it
Yeah,
all.
you can't. And that's the same thing that we talked about when I kind of spin us back when he was saying everything's so simple. And I've been saying the saying on this podcast since the first episode, you can't eat the donuts and have a six-pack at the same time.
Nope.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
And that applies to everything. It applies to fitness. It applies to your relationships, friendships, anything, business. You know what I mean? You can't do it. And it's not literally, you know, literally eat the donuts, but it's you can't cheat yourself and then expect this awesome result.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, you know, make a lot of money and be successful, that's going to become your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, even with what I'm doing now, it's funny when people are like, oh yeah, I want to get into real estate. And I'm like, okay, well, understand it's not a job. It's a lifestyle. It's not your typical 9 to 5. It's on call all the time, on go. You're working weekends. You're doing this, you're doing that. And that's just one thing that people need to understand. But it ultimately comes down to knowing what sparks you, right? Jack likes certain things. John likes certain things. I like certain things. Nikki likes certain things. What sparks you to do it? Not everyone wants to be a millionaire.
I'll
Not
give it
everyone
to you.
even wants to make $100,000.
I just tell people seriously, I'm selfish as fuck. I'm selfish with my time. I'm selfish with my money.
Yeah.
I'm selfish with everything. I'm going to give it to you when I want to give it to you. But ultimately, it's about me, period. And I'm okay with that.
But look at how many lives you've impacted, though.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people have it misconstrued that you give all that you're going to get something in return, right? And I'm speaking from experience. Like, I've put in so much time to so many things, and it didn't better me. It didn't make me more money, right? But like, that's something that I've learned from you. It's okay for me to say fucking no. And that was so empowering for me. You should see me. Maybe I say no too much now.
Oh, no,
I'm
you don't
like,
say no
nope,
too much. Trust me.
I need to say it more.
You don't do it enough. You
Yeah.
can trust me.
No, it's really true. And it's like, those things are so empowering because we're not taught that. So when you say you're selfish, an old paradigm thought system would be like, oh, why is he like that? But then I look at you and I look at what you do for people and what you do mentally, like in the whole aspect of it, is because you built a strong enough fucking foundation and your own empire that now you have the resources to be able to do something if you like, right? And a lot of people use their little extra profit or their little extra time when they don't even have it like that. They're not even fully foundationed in themselves to be able to help themselves, but they're helping other people.
You know, my grandfather told me once, he said, son, if you only make $1, you might be able to help one person and buy him a 20-cent bubble gum. If you make $100, you're going to be able to buy 25 gums. If you make $1,000, you're going to be able to buy 100 gums, make 100 people happy. If you make 1,000,000 gums, you
send it to whoever's gonna build it and say, I want this tile
It's
to be
gonna
this.
be glass.
Sick. Yeah, and I left in
Glass.
place. You'll see, I left in place, and I just did corners, 3D corners of the
It's
different
gonna
tiles.
be heavy, Nikki G.
There's this guy in the Ukraine. Oh my gosh, his infinity pools are sick. So in my, I was like, this is a general, this is what he needs. And I was like going crazy, but it was like so funny that like, it was, the longest part it took me is downloading this damn software.
Yeah, I knew Nikki knew that.
Yeah, because I didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
So then I didn't have
Nick,
it.
would you go close that little? There's a tab to the right. Close that one. No, not the whole thing.
Oh.
Keep that window open.
Okay,
Yeah.
this one right here, right?
Just one tab and get back to the Gmail.
And then,
Yeah, hit that right there.
okay.
And then go mute and then allow, or mute and then enter the broadcast. We'll finish up this last part. Oh no, that's I like because I'll sound like an idiot if I type things, just
Uh-huh.
because my fingers move slower than my brain does,
Yeah,
and then I end up writing shit sentences,
yeah,
and there's no passion or no depth. But if I can sit there and talk about things,
absolutely.
then I just
It's the difference.
and then I come back later and I edit things that were heard incorrectly or whatever.
Mhm.
But I've written almost 100 pages because I'm writing a book. It's called
Yeah.
17, 18, 19. It's about my kids.
That's
But
awesome.
it's all 100 pages is just from me talking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, 7 minutes a day to write a novel.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Seriously.
I've been working on it more now.
Yeah. Are we? I think we're live. No.
Let's go. Let's go back in. Now we're just
The general.
The
Fast
fucking
out.
general.
You do, Dodie. Look all. It's forgetting about me.
Heavy, Nikki. Don't forget Nikki G. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
I'm chasing you, man.